hello there. What is your name and what is your role here?
So my name is Matthew Lightfoot. I'm an associate producer here at Foundry 42.
And what would be a typical day at work for you?
Well, there isn't really a typical day, especially for producers. Part of the job is dealing with problems and being able to schedule and adjust to changes in priority. Obviously, with a game the size of Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, it's just there's so much to do and so many features that we need to keep on top of, keep tracking. And one of the sides of software development and game development is that lots of unexpected things happen. But my particular areas of responsibility are graphics, UI, controls, and live support. So part of the live support is being able to get the updates out to PTU and then get them live. So there's lots of last minute things like that where generally somebody upstairs doesn't like us and decides to put in a lot of live and PTU blockers in at the last moment. So a lot of it's being able to respond to that and get devs looking into those as a high priority.
So how long have you been here at Foundry?
So I'm just coming up to a year. I joined last June on the 13th from Bohemia Interactive.
Oh, excellent. What were you doing at Bohemia?
So at Bohemia, I joined the DayZ team. So I was one of the original DayZ mod developers. And I joined along with Dean Hall right from the start. And then later in my time at Bohemia, I was working on Arma 3 as an associate producer. And I dealt with the Make Arma Not War contest as well as part of that.
That's awesome. So how did you come to hear about Star Citizen and how did you get involved?
So, I mean, to be honest, it was always raised to me through we had a work chat where we'd look at Kickstarters and discuss up and coming games and look at pitches, and it was raised through that. But I'm one of these people that I want everything now. I'm very impatient, especially when it comes to games. When I see something, it's like, oh my God, I need that now. So I tried to avoid anything that looked promising because I know that's my issue with Kickstarter, is that I don't want to wait 3 years. I want it now. Give it to me. So I kind of avoided the Kickstarter for that reason. But I was a massive fan of the premise. Part of the background of why I started to work for Bohemia was I'm a big simulator fan. Things like Flight Sim, VAT Sim, all of that whole, I'm going to do things that I can't actually do in real life. Same with DayZ. Set out your zombie plan. So it's really, really interesting concept when I saw the Kickstarter. And when I was looking to kind of move on from Bohemia, there was a job opening here. I was like, oh my God, that would be awesome. Being able to work on a space simulator. Also a big fan of things like Orbiter, Kerbal Space Program. Just the opportunity to work on something with the scope of Star Citizen. So it was really kind of just the perfect opportunity. And that's why I ended up applying, and luckily I got the job.
Oh, that's good. And really, at the end of the day, Star Citizen isn't entirely dissimilar from Arma in the regards that the engine is full-on simulation. There's not many engines built for the full simulation.
No, I mean, there were a few examples of CryEngine being used for military simulation before. However, I think that VBS actually was the total market leader in that. However, now we've seen Star Citizen take CryEngine to beyond what people thought possible.
Absolutely.
And, we're seeing the vast map sizes and just such high, it's so beautiful, some of the ships in Star Citizen. And we're seeing really CryEngine being cut, where it's being taken to the absolute bleeding edge of development, really. And it's fantastic to be a part of that and seeing that happen.
So have you got any advice for someone looking to get into the game industry themselves?
I've spoken at several schools about this. I think the key thing is, I looked at Bohemia when I was a teenager, when I first started playing Arma, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool to work for a games developer? And I always cast it off like being an astronaut. You look at the jobs page and you just go, wouldn't it be cool if I could, fly the space shuttle? And you just cast it off. It's not. The games industry is always looking for people, talented people and enthusiastic people. There's tons of opportunities now, from the smallest indie studios to the biggest AAA developers, and there's lots of opportunities. Even if you get hit back for a job, there's the opportunity to do things on your own using Unity, using Unreal now, that are becoming easier to access. There's tons of guides online. Get a portfolio, send it to people. Think outside of the box as well when applying for jobs. when you hand in your CV and cover letter, show us what you can do with a portfolio of, look at what I made.
Really try and sell yourself, sell what you can do,
and showing your skills, and not just the skills you have, but also your ability to learn. So I went out and I made a game in Unity, and this is what I did. Look at these awesome things. This is how I overcame some of the challenges that I faced. I mean, one of the projects I did as like a little side thing at Bohemia was I made a little police game. It was awful, but it was so much fun to do and be able to learn about that. And being able to see candidates that have that ability to go out and learn, the willingness, and can show it, I think really is the absolute edge of it.
So having as much of personality, as much of skill is just as important. You wouldn't want someone on your team who's got absolutely how to put it, no ingenuity, no creative side, but could sit there and code ones and zeros all day.
Well, I mean, there's definitely an opportunity. I mean, for people that aren't creative, but it is a totally creative industry. I mean, if we look at the big three, films, music, and the games industry in the UK is now bigger than the film or the music industry. It just overtook it in the last couple of years. So there's lots and lots of money and lots of opportunity there with that. So, and obviously, because it's creative, the more ideas that you have to bring to the table, the better. But obviously it is a collaboration, so you don't need to have all the answers.
So what are your favourite ships and why?
So my favourite ship has to be the Idris, solely because I love the idea of capital ship gameplay. From the simulator background, I love the idea of having this command structure and you're on board with 40 of your friends and clanmates, and you've got this, you've got your air traffic controller. You might have an AWACS bird out who's controlling squadrons, and then you've got your capital ship team that's relaying that information. And I love that kind of the flow where you've got that, right, okay, we've just jumped into a system. We need to get those birds off the deck as soon as possible now into combat and all the maneuvering around that. And I don't think you get that with some of the smaller ships. Although if I was having to go for like a ship an individual one, at the moment, I'd have to say the Hornet military.
Yeah. The F7A or the civilian version of Weaker
The F7A.
Tease.
Solely because one of my top 3 films has to be Top Gun. And if we were going to go for any aircraft to model the F-14 in Star Citizen, it's going to be the Hornet. Definitely the capital ship gameplay, though. I'd love to just stand on a bridge as you're surveying a battle. Like when you see even things and the massive capital ship battles out there, where you've seen 300 people fight and slug it out for 12, 16 hours. And I'd love to be able to see that in Star Citizen when people look back on these battles and tell stories.
And of course, the even being able to watch it on a CIC in a hologram form, that's kind of cool just on its own. To think, I could watch that unfold and direct the battle from there.
It is. I mean, lots of people with clans and guilds want the high command positions because, wouldn't it be cool to command people? But it's also a lot of work being able to try and coordinate, 50, 60, even more people in a battle, and being able to say, right, you guys need to move here, and actually we want to outflank their ship so that they can't turn it around and retreat and jump out. Being able to command that and see that bigger picture is a lot of work, and hopefully if we can enable that in Star Citizen, it'll be amazing.
Absolutely.
And, obviously, like I mentioned before about the story aspect, one of the things we've not got yet that I think we eventually will end up with is that as people explore the universe, and because you're able to get into first person in your ships, that we'll see people slowly craft these stories that will come up of, I jumped to this station and there were, I saw these broken down ships, or I helped somebody, this person helped me for free, or, I was part of this massive battle and this was my small role in it. And you'll get these real individual stories, similar to, not too dissimilar from what you had with DayZ, where people get these just fantastic monologues.
There's always an adventure in DayZ.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is if we can get Star Citizen and people sharing these stories, and we're able to create a world that's possible in, I think it will be far surpass anything else that's out there.
Absolutely. One last thing, is there anything you would like to say to any citizen watching this video at home?
So, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to all of our backers out of there. because none of this would have been possible without the support, both from the initial Kickstarter and now buying ships now. Obviously we've got a massive team, so there's money there that is need to continue to run the studio, and without people's continued support, it wouldn't be possible to continue to make this dream a reality.
We've got one last question I have to ask, sorry, is Earth or Terra?
I'd have to say that's a tough one. I would say it's relative. So Earth if you're on it, Terra if you're off in space. Partly because we always refer to Earth now because we're all currently on it. But I believe the phrase Terra comes from a reference to anything that's Earth-like. I don't know. You'd have to fact check that.
We'll have to go back in our Greek or Latin.
Yeah. But no, I would say I think Earth is more homely.
Well, I think that's about it. Thank you very much.
No problem at all.